as in a micro sense for that one particular unit and one particular business, or I can read it in a macro sense, which is the way I read it, is to if you increase the total number.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's vague in a sense, but I interpret that either way, micro or a macro sense.
To the CEO. Okay, Supervisor Pinches.
3 points, Mr. Chairman. First of all, it always boggles my mind that in these discussions of these natures, the word private property rights is never even brought up. I think that, if property rights, as everybody should know, is not a privilege, it's not a whim, it's a right. Just like you have your basic human rights, it's a right. The second point is, most major land use issues, their decisions are either appealed or litigated in this county. That's a fact of life. So litigation, I don't think I can be in this position as a decision maker to worry about chance of, why do it because it's going to get appealed, or why do it because it may be get litigated. I refuse to make my decisions based on that fact. I've heard a couple times last week and today, this morning, that 3 years of lack of progress has been unfortunate. I think it's BS. Thank you.
Supervisor, do you have additional comment?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'd like some clarification from the applicant's attorney, if I can, if that's all right with you, on the legality of the change in the number. May I ask a question of the attorney?
Well, public discussion has been closed.
That's understood.
Would the board allow me the ability to allow Supervisor Delbar to ask a question of the attorney? Is there any objection? Supervisor?
Yes, I'd like to go to council. Is this council's recommendation that we open up the hearing again? Because that is opening up the hearing. If you allow to hear from the applicant, you would allow to hear from anyone.
Yeah, and I thought it was very clear that when we left on Tuesday that the hearing was closed and there would be no further public comment. But it's certainly within the board's discretion.
Okay. Mr. Carter, hold on. Supervisor Koufax, to the issue.
I'm sure the council here would have things to hear, for us to hear, and things to say. However, it was made very clear on the radio and in newspapers that there would be no public comment. This is opening public comment. If we're going to go through this whole process of doing this, then we renotice the meeting, tell people they can come and comment on these matters. To allow a counselor here who is, as I say, probably has some insights that we could argue over for the rest of the day. But the other side of it is that this would not be appropriate. In fact, I would challenge the legality of allowing this after having said explicitly from County Council that there would be no public comment. And once again, that's the way it is. There are people who would have come over from the coast if they thought they could make their brilliant, equally brilliant comments and provide us with their equally brilliant insights into this matter, but they're not here because they have heard from me and they have heard on the radio that there will be no public input. So I'm sorry, I would very, very strongly oppose this. I think it would be utterly inappropriate.
I have a constitutional right to make 2 points of order without any substantive input. And if there's going to be litigation, I have a right to tell you what those points are. I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to supply you new information. But the points are this. One is, I object to the procedure where you consider a letter that's not part of a record that is 8 years old and has nothing to do with this application, that denies due process and is totally inappropriate. Secondly, I object to a process where your county council does not give a right to an applicant to understand her position during the process of the discussion, and then to come in with a position which I think is patently wrong and try to intimidate this board into taking a position on an application where the applicant has had no opportunity to object to it. Now, if there's going to be litigation, these are issues that I want to be able to talk about when the litigation occurs. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I still want to be able to address the merits of these points. And I have been here before this board and its predecessors for over 30 years, and never have I seen a situation where a board member could not ask any member of the public to come up and answer a question and not have that considered opening the public hearing. It's never been considered opening the public hearing, and it wouldn't be now, and you're being ramrodded by a preconceived little cabal here that I strenuously object to. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
County Counsel?
Well, I take offense to the comments that I'm part of a cabal, and as you well know, I've never made any efforts, and nor will I ever be able to intimidate this board with respect to anything that I say.
To the council, I have a question. In regards to, and I want to make this on the record, I was quite clear that the public comment period was closed. And that's going to be my position. But the question is, by taking this letter and discussing it, this is communication from the public. This came from a particular individual. Is this precedence to allow for Mr. Delboire's question, if he could ask a question specific to the attorney?
Well, number one, this letter is a public document. It's been in the planning files. This is not new news to this board.
It is to me, Counselor, because I specifically asked, why was that not in the record of the previous public hearing discussion and all the reams of documents that we had? So to me, I'm taking it as testimony from an individual saying, look, if nothing more, look, you did not address these items. So to me, by accepting this morning and entering it into the discussion, I would have liked to at least receive the supervisor's request to ask a question of the attorney, and certainly not open it up for a full-fledged another public comment discussion.
And I stated earlier that that's well within the board's discretion. But
Okay.
you all made it very clear on Tuesday that you'd closed the public hearing to prevent further testimony and public comment. It's well within the board's discretion if you want to modify that.
Well,
I'm not saying that you can't do that. But I'm also saying that the information received by the Coastal Commission is what has actually been represented by the planning department and the planning team as to why we need to finish the process before we start engaging in plan amendments.
I fully understand that, Counselor.
That's all.
But I'm taking it as in the direction of answering my own question, that by allowing this to be entered today in very specific form is different than what the staff has been recommending. This is more to the point by an individual saying, I'm reminding you 5 folks. So that's just my opinion, and the discussion before us is to allow the one supervisor to ask a question of an attorney, not to open it up for public testimony, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm saying we kind of already did that. We kind of already allowed additional comment. So I'm going to be, my comments would be to allow the supervisor to ask his question of the attorney. Supervisor Pinches.
Mr. Chairman, I think it's kind of a